Your Honor, I object. The voice rang through the courtroom, small but firm, shaking yet unyielding. All eyes turned toward the plaintiff, a 14-year-old girl named Emily Carter, standing at the witness stand with her hands clenched into fists. Across the room, her parents sat at the defense table, their faces a mix of shock, disbelief, and something else: fear. Judge Olivia Harper, a seasoned woman in her 60s, peered over her glasses at Emily. She had seen many cases in her time, but never had she witnessed something quite like this. A child suing her own parents. And for what? The details of the case had been murky at best, but as Emily spoke, the entire courtroom fell silent. "Emily, please," her mother, Sandra Carter, pleaded from the defense table. "This is ridiculous. You're our daughter." But Emily didn't waver. She turned to the judge, her eyes brimming with something deeper than mere teenage rebellion. "I may be their daughter," she said, her voice trembling, "but they never treated me like one." A gasp rippled through the room. Judge Harper leaned forward, intrigued. "Miss Carter," she said, her voice gentle yet authoritative, "please tell the court why you have filed this lawsuit against your parents." Emily took a deep breath, then uttered words that sent a chill through the air. "Because they stole my entire childhood, Your Honor, and I have proof." A stunned silence fell over the courtroom. Even the opposing lawyer, a man known for his relentless aggression in court, seemed momentarily speechless. Judge Harper cleared her throat. "Emily, this is a serious claim. Can you explain what you mean?" Emily inhaled sharply, gripping the wooden stand for support. "My parents didn't raise me, Your Honor," she said, her voice cracking. "They exploited me." Her father, Michael Carter, shot up from his seat. "That's a lie," he shouted. "Mr. Carter, sit down or I will hold you in contempt." Judge Harper's voice boomed across the room. Michael sat, his jaw clenched, but his eyes bore into Emily. "Go on, Miss Carter," the judge urged gently. Emily swallowed hard. "For as long as I can remember, my parents used me to make money. They turned me into a social media star when I was 5, without my consent. They filmed every moment of my life, my first steps, my tears, my private struggles, and posted it online for millions of strangers to see. They made millions off of my childhood, and I never saw a single cent." The courtroom collectively exhaled, shocked. A murmur rippled through the audience. "And when I turned 14, Emily continued, I found out the truth. They had spent every dollar they made in my name, on themselves." Judge Harper leaned back, her fingers pressed together. "Are you saying your parents financially benefited from your childhood without providing for your future?" Emily nodded, her lip quivering. "Yes, Your Honor. And now, I have nothing. No college fund, no savings, nothing. And when I asked them about it, they said I owed them for giving me a good life." A deep silence followed her words, heavier than before. Judge Harper turned to the defense table. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, do you have a response?" Sandra Carter hesitated, before saying weakly, "She's exaggerating, Your Honor. We were just trying to give her opportunities." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "Opportunities?" She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I have evidence, bank statements, contracts, even emails where they talk about me like a business asset. They never saw me as a daughter. Just a paycheck." A tear slipped down Judge Harper's cheek before she quickly wiped it away. "Present your evidence, Miss Carter," she said, her voice unusually soft. "This court needs to see the truth." Emily handed a thick folder of documents to her lawyer, who approached the bench. Judge Harper took the folder and began flipping through the pages. With each passing second, her expression darkened. "These are your parents' bank statements?" the judge asked. Emily nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Look at the deposits. all revenue from sponsorships and ad deals linked to my social media accounts. Now, look at the withdrawals, luxury vacations, designer clothes, expensive cars, everything for them, nothing for me." The judge's eyes moved quickly over the evidence, her grip tightening around the pages. Then she turned to the defense table. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she said, her voice steely, "can you explain why over $3 million earned in your daughter's name was funneled into your personal accounts, with no trust fund, no college savings, no financial security left for her?" Sandra Carter fidgeted in her seat, glancing nervously at her husband. Michael let out a short, humorless laugh. "Your Honor, we are her parents. We provided for her. She lived in our house, ate our food, and was paraded online like a circus act," Emily snapped, her voice finally breaking. "Do you even know what it feels like to have no privacy? To wake up and realize the entire world knows about your most embarrassing moments because your own parents put them online for profit?" A few gasps echoed through the courtroom. Even the jury members shifted uncomfortably. Emily's lawyer stepped forward. "Your Honor, we also have screenshots of conversations between Mr. and Mrs. Carter and several brands. In these emails, they explicitly discuss using Emily's emotional moments, her fears, her struggles, even her pain, to increase engagement and revenue." Judge Harper's lips pressed into a tight line. "Let me be very clear," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Exploiting your own child for financial gain is not just unethical, it is reprehensible." Sandra Carter's face paled. Michael leaned in, whispering something to her, but she shook her head. "Miss Carter," the judge said, turning back to Emily, "what do you want from this lawsuit?" Emily straightened her back. "I want my money back," she declared. "I want full control over the accounts that bear my name. I want legal protection so they can never profit from me again. And most of all, I want them to be held accountable." Judge Harper nodded slowly. "Very well. This court will take a short recess. When we return, I will make my ruling." As the judge banged her gavel, the courtroom erupted into hushed whispers. Sandra and Michael Carter sat frozen in their seats. For the first time, they realized they were no longer in control. During the recess, Sandra and Michael Carter sat in the courthouse hallway, whispering frantically. Their lawyer, a sharp-suited man named Richard Hayes, leaned in with a grim expression. "You need to show remorse," he muttered. "The judge is clearly against you. If you act cold, you'll lose everything." Sandra scoffed. "Remorse? For what? We gave her everything." Michael clenched his jaw. "She's being dramatic. She wouldn't even have a name if it weren't for us." Hayes sighed, rubbing his temples. "Then you better hope the judge believes that because right now the entire courtroom is on her side." Meanwhile, Emily sat in a separate waiting area with her lawyer, Claire Donovan. "You're doing great," Claire reassured her. "The evidence speaks for itself. Just stay composed." Emily nodded, but her hands trembled in her lap. Years of being controlled by her parents had left scars, both visible and unseen. "What if they manipulate the judge?" she whispered. "They always know how to twist things." Claire gave a confident smile. "Not this time." The courtroom doors swung open, and everyone filed back inside. Judge Harper took her seat and cleared her throat. "Court is now back in session." She turned to the defense table. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, do you have anything to say before I make my ruling?" Sandra stood abruptly, tears welling in her eyes. "Your Honor, we are good parents. We never meant to hurt Emily. Everything we did was for her future." Michael followed suit, nodding. "We made sacrifices. We built her brand from the ground up. She's just a child. She doesn't understand how the world works." Emily flinched. The same words they had always used to control her. Judge Harper tapped her fingers on the desk. "Miss Carter, Do you wish to respond? Emily exhaled and stood up. I understand perfectly, she said, her voice steady. I understand that my childhood was stolen for profit. I understand that my own parents treated me like a business instead of a daughter. And I understand that no amount of fake tears will change the fact that they exploited me. A heavy silence fell over the room. Judge Harper leaned forward, staring at the Carters. You spent millions of dollars that legally belonged to your daughter, she stated. And you expect me to believe it was all for her, Sandra whimpered. We made mistakes. You didn't make mistakes, Judge Harper interrupted coldly. You made choices. Michael's face turned red with fury, but before he could speak, Judge Harper raised her gavel. I am ready to make my ruling. Judge Harper adjusted her glasses, her gaze cold and calculating as she studied the faces of Sandra and Michael Carter. The courtroom held its breath. Emily Carter has provided undeniable evidence that her earnings were misused and her rights as a minor were violated, she began. I have reviewed the financial records, the contracts, and the testimony from both parties. Sandra clutched Michael's arm, panic flashing in her eyes. Your Honor, please, she pleaded. She's just a child. She doesn't understand business. Emily's jaw clenched. I understand enough to know I was being used, she said firmly. Judge Harper raised a hand to silence them. It is my duty to uphold the law and ensure justice is served, she continued. As such, I am granting Emily Carter full legal emancipation from her parents. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Sandra let out a choked sob. No, you can't do this. She's our daughter. Michael slammed his fists on the table. She belongs to us. Judge Harper's expression darkened. No, Mr. Carter. Emily Carter belongs to herself. Emily's eyes welled up, but this time it wasn't fear. It was relief. Judge Harper wasn't finished. Furthermore, I am ordering full financial restitution. All of Emily's earnings that were spent or misused by her parents must be repaid in full. Additionally, I am freezing the Carters' assets until a full audit is conducted. Michael's face turned ghostly white. Your Honor, that's our entire fortune. Correction, Judge Harper said coolly. That was Emily's fortune. You simply stole it. Sandra collapsed into her seat, sobbing uncontrollably. Emily turned to Claire, her heart pounding. Did that really just happen? Claire grinned. Yes, Emily. You just won. The judge's gavel struck. Court is adjourned. As Emily stepped out of the courtroom, a wave of reporters surged toward her. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved in her face. Emily, how do you feel about the verdict? Will you ever speak to your parents again? What's next for you? Emily took a deep breath, her voice clear and unwavering. For the first time in my life, I am free. And with that, she walked away toward a future that was finally hers.